kitchen garden. This is a kitchen garden, you can see. Yes, a kitchen garden. This is a homestead, a Bukusu homestead. Bukusu homestead. Of course, it's modernized because it is, you can see the wall, the corrugated iron. It's not the huts and the mud house that we know, but this is a typical Bukusu homestead. A homestead without a sirundu or kitchen garden is no homestead. So what you are seeing here is therefore a kitchen garden. You can see we also have bananas. Bananas are out there. Those are bananas, as you can see. Bananas. Here they are. Those are bananas. From the bananas, where they are also planting some maize and beans, you come to a kitchen garden or sirundu. You can see there is sukuma, there is Ethiopian kale in this homestead, in this area. If you looked at the area, let's consider the area of this kitchen garden. It might be well, it's circular, but you call it maybe 10 by 10 by 10 meters, so to speak. And look at the number of the sukuma that is here. We want now to go agripreneurship. This is the standard agriculture, normal planting. And for food security, for vegetable security, this homestead has made up a kitchen garden sirundu. In a 10 by 10, about 10 by 10 meters, you can see we are planting vegetables. Now, land is becoming smaller because of the growing population, and there's also climate change. And therefore now, we must think of modern ways of farming that increases production on the same area of land. So let's move to the next homestead, where I trained the people on vertical farming, corn farming. That means converting this kitchen garden into corn farming model. Let's go and see it and compare. How much, first of all, can we get? How much sukuma can we get from this? This is just about 50 or 100 stems. This is a whole 100 stems of sukuma in an area of 10 by 10. Now, can we get the same 100 stems of sukuma in a less area, let's say 1 by 1 meters, rather than 10 by 10? Can we get 1 by 1 meter and produce the same amount of sukuma? Let's go and see that. Now here, in a second homestead, just neighbors, you can see we were out there. We were out there looking at that homestead and seeing that kitchen garden that we can still see there. That kitchen garden there with the sukuma in an area of about 10 by 10, and we counted about 100 stems of sukuma, actually Ethiopian kale. And now we want to contrast it with this homestead now. This homestead here, where you can see instead of planting on the ground, a cone has been made. A cone has been made, and we have planted again the sukuma. These are cones here. You can see another cone. You can see this is another cone, and yet another cone. Now, if you were to count the stems of sukuma on this cone, it will be again about 100, meaning that on the same 10 by 10 meter portion, we have created the same amount of sukuma, if not more, in a cone. We call this vertical farming. You can see out here, this is it. This is now sukuma and Ethiopian kale planted in a cone. There is also here mito, also planted in a cone. So this cone is about 1 meter by 1 meter. It's circular, but it's about 1 meter by 1 meter. That means on 1 square meter, we are growing the same 100 stems of sukuma, like the ground of 10 by 10, which we can see far there, which we can see out there. What are we saying? That out there in a kitchen garden, a traditional kitchen garden, you can see we have on an area of 10 by 10, we have planted 100 stems of sukuma. And out here, you can see out here on a cone, in a cone which is 1 by 1 meter, we have planted the same amount of sukuma, 100 stems, if not more. Like these ones will be thinned. There will be the thinning to do here, and then they remain 100. You know, we are planting them in vertical shape. We have made a cone, and there's the lower, the bottom area, the second, the third. These are only about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels of the cone. This is mito, 5 levels of the cone. If there were 7 levels or more, then would be growing more than the 100 stems here. So, what are the benefits of this? One, on a small area, we are getting more. We are producing more quantity and even probably quality than on the traditional, using the traditional farming, kitchen garden farming. So we produce more on small piece of land. Number two, the management is easier. Even a little child can go and weed this, because there is no weeding to do, just uprooting, using the hand to uproot the weeds. But out there on the ground, you have to go in with a djembe, and therefore labor intensive. Number three, climate change has meant less rain and therefore less availability of water. You can see that irrigating this area in a cone is much easier. We can irrigate it much easier. Just come with a bucket of water, and irrigate it along the levels, rather than, and that water is directly going to the stems, rather than do just irrigate widely with some water not even going to use. And therefore we are saying therefore that this corn farming is more profitable. Now you can see this is the homestead, and the area the corns are taking is a very little area just in front of the house. And therefore we are saying that if every woman in the village was asked to do a corn, then we are going towards one, food security, because we have the vegetables, and two, these are indigenous vegetables, and therefore we shall be harvesting the indigenous vegetables. Let us look at the some economics of this corn farming. Let's look at some economics. And we're taking the Ethiopian kale. 1 acre of Ethiopian kale, which we also called sarati, can produce about 100 to 130 90 kg bags of this Ethiopian kale. But it can also produce 1 bag of seed. In other words, when you grow these kales, you can eat the leaves, but you also allow the kales to germinate and to produce the seeds. Experience has shown that in an acre, one can make a profit of 300,000 to 75 to 750,000 Kenya shillings per acre. I was talking to a group of women. They own just as little as 1/4 of an acre, and therefore they are making their kitchen curtains on almost like an eighth. And they are in a group of 30. There's a self-help group of 30. I imagined that if every woman in that group of 30 was trained and given just 2 corns, then that collectively they would have grown about 1.5 acres. Why am I saying so? Because this 1 corn is 10 by 10 meters. The another 1 corn is 1 by 1 meter. 1 by 1 meters. But the land that the land that we could have produced this, what was in the corn, could be 10 by 10. So 2 of them will be, even if we just took 1 and we multiply by 30 women, each one of them, now that means that it's about 300 square meters. And sarati or kale just takes about less than 2 months, about 55 days to 70 days to mature. And therefore, if we collectively, as a self-help group, each woman, each member grew in had 1 corn, and when we start the harvesting collectively again, we can be able to get those 100 bags, 90 kg bags, and earn our 300,000 collectively. Of course, we can have a policy that every member must have a corn of 7 layers, so that maybe 2 layers or 1 layer is for home consumption, and the rest of the layers commercial. And therefore, we are talking about getting those 300,000 with one harvest. We are saying that this can be grown, 2 months, and we harvest. That means we could grow up to five times a year. And watering and fertilizer, we can use the local fertilizers. As you can see just behind the corns, we have educated this lady to grow those soft plants. I may not exactly know the name now, but those soft plants are very easy to decompose, including the Mexican sunflower. And therefore, these have been grown along the fence of these corns so that we can now make compost out of it. And the compost will be used to fertilize these corns, and therefore we shall be going organic farming. Of course, they also have some animals, some cattle. The manure from that cattle can also come into this corn, and there we shall be producing organic, we shall be doing organic farming. And therefore, agripreneurship teaches us that we need to be innovative. Corn farming brings innovation, and therefore we can have more produce out of the same amount of land. So the model could be every member of a self-help group, let's say of 30 people, is introduced to corn farming and given instructions to produce both for home, for self-consumption, and for commercial, and also produce both the leaves and the seeds. This corn alone will produce, like I said, it will produce, let's see again, that's about 100 bags of leaves and 1 bag of seeds. And 1 bag of seeds will fetch about 10,000 Kenya shillings. That's 1 bag of seeds of Ethiopian kale. On the market, it will fetch about 10,000 Kenya shillings. Add on to the 200 or 300 Kenya shillings from the leaves, and then you can see just in a corn and just growing vegetables only, the member would be producing more than someone with even 2 acres of maize. Or let's go 1 acre of maize, which will fetch them, in an acre of maize, you'll get about 20 bags once in a year. And even if you got 35 bags once in a year, 35 multiplied by 4,000 Kenya shillings per bag, that's about 100 and, let's see, 35, let's take 30. 30 multiplied by 4,000, 120. 120,000 Kenya shillings in a year. But we're talking about kales, which are going to get 300,000 in a less area than the acre. And if our members don't have land, there's no excuse that because there's no land, we cannot do farming. So that is like we always pass over opportunities repeatedly. So at TTV, we call passing over opportunities repeatedly, which is poor. Passing, P, over, or opportunities, or repeatedly are poor. So we are poor in the villages because there are many opportunities that we could grab, could utilize, but we are not utilizing it. So corn farming is one such opportunity. And the corn farming is actually climate smart farming because we adapt the climate. We are growing crops that use less water. We are growing crops that use less land, and therefore we are adapting to the climate. So corn farming, and our proposal is that we should be doing traditional vegetables, do it use organic methods of farming, and we shall not only increase the incomes of the villages, we shall also increase the food security, because what you get from this corn, what you earn, you can actually go and buy all the maize that you would have grown in an acre. So there is no excuse, there should be no excuse that we don't have land and therefore we cannot produce. There's no excuse that there is population growth and therefore land is dwindling. You know, we must invest in technology. We must invest in entrepreneurship. We must invest in creativity and innovation. And that this is what we're doing. Let me repeat. You can see those plants that are just behind the corns. Those plants, kamangulie in our language, they are the soft. They do actually function of tissue paper, of toilet paper. When people go to the bush to release themselves, they use those soft leaves called kamangulie to play the function of a toilet paper. Soft as they are, when you plug them and you put in a compost, they decompose very fast. You mix them with Egyptian, or rather the Mexican sunflower, Tithonia, or what we call mbekuraisi, and both of them have got very rich nutrients that you'll get in your fertilizer, DAP fertilizer, and therefore this small corn will benefit from the organic fertilizer. Indeed, you don't even have to decompose them. Just take the Mexican sunflower leaves fresh, and as you are planting your corn, just put it in the stems in the soil. They will decompose and you will be home and dry. And therefore, there's no need to cry over there is no fertilizer, the free government fertilizer. When you have a small plot, you do not have to cry over lack of fertilizer. You don't need it. And in any case, the DAP, the inorganic fertilizer, is not all that very good for our plants. That's why now climate, or rather smart farming, is going organic farming. Indeed, when you do this organic farming and produce these vegetables, we may be in the rural areas. We are now in Kibingei Ward. We're in a Lutonyi village, Kibingei Ward, the Mill Sub-County, and the Ngoma County. But because of the awareness of organic farming, there are supermarkets like Naivas, a number of supermarkets, Carrefour, that are now alive to the fact that their customers want organic farming. And therefore, indigenous vegetables can be exported from the village to the town, labeled, organic. And of course, one single person may not be able to do so. And that's why we were saying that we need self-help groups, women groups, to convert their traditional kitchen gardens to corn farming. And one might wonder, how do we get the material? Now, this material, of course, it is a special material, a special damp paper, but we can still make this corn using ordinary local materials. You can just use twigs, get the twigs, make a cycle, and go on. And so, again, there's no excuse that it's expensive. We can do it. We can actually just do terracing. And with the terracing, you are home and dry. So, this has been your entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship tutor, Professor Henry Bwisa, retired but not tired, retired but not expired, the founder of TTV, talking about corn farming, vertical farming, and the benefits that it has in the village. It is a project that can remove poverty, can lead to food security, and can be adaptive to the climate. Thank you for listening.